Hey guys, welcome back to the Trevor Report. I am joined by right wing Maximilian. My name is Trevor, but obviously you knew that because it says my name in the show and all that stuff. And we connected on Instagram, and I think that he has some pretty interesting things to say, and I have some questions, and he's going to answer them. I'm on this little mini tour as a part of my virtual tour where I'm asking Catholics and Protestants about certain things because I think they're talking over each other and they need to
Yeah,
stop because they believe in the same God. So there's no point. And I'm saying this as
exactly.
a
No,
Protestant. So anyway,
yeah,
yeah, why don't you tell them all about like who the hell you are, pun intended, religious pun, and what
of
you do.
course, of course. So I'll actually talk about, since when I've been involved in politics,
Oh.
what I believe in, what my political ideology is. So
Hmm.
yeah, well, before I begin, I'd like to thank Trevor for having me on here. It's an honor. In fact, this is probably like the second interview I've probably been on. First one
Oh.
was with Texas Independent. It was a pretty short segment, and now I'm with Trevor. I'd like to once again thank you, Trevor, for having me here. So yeah, let's get this started. So I've been involved in politics, like I guess on Instagram since I was 13. I mean,
Oh.
I didn't really have this Instagram account. I had another account. Um, but before that, I mean, I've been interested in politics since I was 8. But I'm not gonna go that far. I'm gonna go back to the time like of the 2016 election. So,
Hmm.
if you don't mind, I'll tell you my origin story. I'll tell you guys the origin story. So,
Hmm.
yeah, so when I first started to like I guess pay a lot more attention to politics, which was in 2015, 2016. I was, I guess, more of a neoliberal type guy. I mean, I thought that Trump was a racist. I thought that Trump was a bad person, because I watched CNN. I mean, that was the media that I was exposed to for a very long time. Um, and that was basically the case for me up until like the middle of 2016. And the reason why I kind of started to get skeptical of not just the left, but of the Democrat Party and even the establishment is because, I've always been skeptical about the BLM movement. I've always been skeptical about the feminist movement. Like my 11-year-old self did not say this, but I thought this, if these people are truly like the resistance. I never really like said this, but like I kind of
Hmm.
had the thought process of like if these people are truly the resistance like they claim they are, why are these people getting advocated in schools, by our institutions, by all of these people? So like that made me skeptical of the left and even of the establishment itself. So
Pride
I mean,
brought to you by Goldman Sachs.
yeah. So I mean, yeah. So um, after and not only that, something that I've never really liked about the left is that they attack Christopher Columbus, and the reason why I don't like that at all is because Christopher Columbus. I mean, he might seem like a normal guy, but he was the one who brought Catholicism to the New World, and he was also
Hmm.
the one who pretty much started that. Hispanic. I mean, I'm not like a Hispanic nationalist or anything, but like he was basically the one who, in a way, contributed to the creation of the Hispanic race. He was the one who brought Spanish. And, growing up, my parents gave me this very positive view of Christopher Columbus. And I think the reason why that was the case is because he brought Catholicism, Christianity to the New World. He brought Spanish. He brought a lot of things. And to see like the institutions here attacking him for it just made me very skeptical. So
Hmm.
around 2016, I was also exposed to like YouTubers like Leafy is here. I wouldn't say he's
Classic.
conservative, but he was probably more like libertarian type. But I started watching videos of honestly, I'd honestly say that Leafy.
Uh-oh. No. No. Oh crap. So while he's frozen, apparently, let's hmm, let's make sure everything's in working order. What does Joe Rogan do in
Yeah,
this
it's kind of
situation?
slow.
DMT. Yeah.
What happened?
Oh, you cut out. You're talking about Christopher Columbus?
Yeah, I did, yeah. Yeah, the internet is kind of bad on my end. But anyway,
Hmm.
what I was saying was that I think Leafy is here is somebody who, is I would say a big red pill for a lot of younger conservatives. I mean, people who start to watch him end up, I would say, getting more interested into the right. Now, I wouldn't really say he's a political guy or guy. He was just somebody who, made videos. But I think that, you know, those videos, which weren't even political, I guess that kind of made people more interested in,
Mm,
abandoning the left, especially because he was critical of feminists.
mm,
And yeah, but anyway, I watched him, he was very popular back in the day, before he got taken down by Susan Wojcicki. Um, but anyway, I watched him and I started to, question a lot more things told by the mainstream media. I was like, is Trump really that bad? Is he really gonna do all of these bad stuff that they claim he is? And I came to the conclusion that, like, which was honestly kind of a cringe conclusion. Well, before that, um, my parents, they didn't like Trump either, but they were also skeptical about Hillary Clinton. And the reason why was because they were pro-life, because they were Catholics, they're pro-life. And in order to explain that skepticism to me, they explained the issue to me. So that's where I was basically introduced to the abortion issue. And I mean, I've basically been pro-life pretty much my whole life, ever since then. And yeah, but anyway, I still supported Hillary because I was still skeptical of Trump, which again was cringe, but again, I was only 11 at the time. I didn't have as
Look,
much knowledge as I
when I was 9, I endorsed Mitt Romney on Facebook.
really.
Like I posted on Facebook an endorsement of Mitt Romney as like I'm
Yeah, I
talking
mean,
like the lesser two evils kind of endorsement as well.
exactly. I mean,
It's
here's the
okay,
thing.
you know.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing though. I mean, not only that, like Romney at the time, I mean, that's something I really like about Trump. At the time, I didn't like it, but now that I look back at it, I really like it. And the thing I like about Trump is that he pretty much abandoned optics. Now, I'm not saying that we should throw all optics out the window, but he pretty much abandoned the ones that were kind of, in a way, preventing common sense from being
Yeah.
set. Like, I mean, he said, hey, we're going to build a border wall. We're going to stop illegal immigration. We're going to put America first. Like, you weren't really hearing that from Jeb Bush. You weren't hearing that from
Hmm.
Mitt Romney. You weren't hearing that from any of the Republican establishment. And at the time, I mean, I didn't like that. But looking back at it, I thought that that was really great because, in a way, he woke up so many Americans. And no, I
Hmm.
wouldn't even say woke up. He said what Americans wanted to hear. And because of that, I thought that that was really good. So yeah, now unfortunately, many people weren't really exposed to like the truth. So because of that, they supported people like Mitt Romney or Bush or Rubio, which I was one of those people. But yeah, but which is the reason why I was skeptical of Trump at first. But anyway, continuing on, in 2017, so here's the thing about my family. My family's from Venezuela, and growing up, I've always heard about the political situation over there, which made me interested in politics. I mean, it made me interested in in the way of like, okay, how did this happen? What can I do to prevent this from happening in a way, kind of like, how did Venezuela become bad? How can I prevent this from happening in other countries? And I eventually found out that it was, I don't want to sound like a neocon right now, or a libertarian, but I mean, I found out that, it was socialism that destroyed these countries. And seeing the left promote this idea of socialism, seeing them attack Christianity, seeing them promote these ideas, which I thought were degenerate, like I just couldn't stand with it. So around 2017, that's where I start to move towards the right wing in a way. Now,
Mm.
obviously, I went through that phase of PragerU, of Ben Shapiro, like every young conservative does at some point of being conservative. I went through that. Then around 2020, I became more libertarian, and then in 2021, and today, I've been more of a traditionalist conservative, national conservative, paleo
Mm.
conservative type. So yeah, that's pretty much my political journey throughout my whole, I wouldn't say my whole life, but like, from 2016 or 2015 and forward. That's pretty much what I basically my evolution through politics. So yeah.
Yeah, and just a quick snide comment here. If you want to not pay taxes, here's what you do because taxes are gay. The first thing you do is you register an LLC in the state of Nevada, and you have that shell company be that LLC be owned by a shell company in Dubai, and then you renounce your U.S. citizenship. And
Yep.
because the West is stupid, you can just continue living where you are. So
Right. Yeah.
and you could
I mean,
still
it's
participate in the U.S. economy and contribute to the United States and be a good U.S. citizen without paying taxes. So there you go. But
exactly. Yeah.
basically,
I mean, it's sorry, you can talk. My bad.
yeah, there is this thing I brought on Franco. You may have seen it. You may have
Yeah,
not seen it. Comment.
I love Franco. Franco Aurelio
Yeah,
is great. Yeah.
yeah. I had him on the show the other day and posted it on. As of the time I'm recording
Great.
this, or we're recording this, it's Saturday. Did it on Thursday, and it's sorry Wednesday, and went up on Thursday. But but right now, basically, you're Catholic, correct?
Yes, that's true.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah. So you're the second Catholic I brought onto this, and then next I'll bring on two Protestants to kind of even it out. So I
All right.
asked Franco the first half of these questions, and I'm
All
asking
right.
you the other half of these questions. So feel free to speak on behalf of all Catholics. I would greatly appreciate it. Um,
I don't
what
know if
does
I can
submitting
do
to
that
Rome? I'm
because
being facetious. What does submitting to Rome mean?
so to me, I mean, from my understanding of what submitting to Rome means, it means submitting to the values of the Catholic Church, which are Christian values. It means submitting to
Mm,
the clergy that is put that is established by the Catholic Church, which is the Pope, bishops, and priests. Now, obviously, it is an absolute. It doesn't mean we absolutely submit to them to the point where we put them at the same level as Christ,
mm,
but we recognize that they are important because they are supposed to be representatives of Christ. Now, again, not like absolute representatives, of course, not to the point
mm.
where they are at the same level as him, but they are supposed to represent the values of Catholicism, which from my understanding could be Ten Commandments, the values of Catholic social teaching, and yeah, basically submitting to those values. Now, a lot of people, will tell me, well, would submitting to Rome mean submitting to everything the Pope says? And my answer to that is not necessarily. I mean, not everything the Pope says is infallible. Um, the Pope only says infallible things when he says something by papal decree or while sitting on the chair of St. Peter. So basically, if the Pope doesn't say anything by papal decree, if he says, oh, we should take care of the environment or talk about how capitalism is an evil system, I don't have to submit to that as long as it's not a papal decree. And I don't think he could do that as papal decree. I could be wrong. I could be wrong about that. Again, I'm not really the I would honestly say that I'm not the best when it comes to responding questions about Catholicism. I could respond to basic stuff, but compared to Franco, I mean, Franco really was probably like the best one at answering those questions. But to me, I would say that it means submitting to Catholic values, whether it's the values from the Bible, Catholic social teaching, and to the clergy. And again, doesn't mean putting the clergy above Christ or at the level of Christ. It means just respecting them and listening to them because again, they are advocating for what the Catechism advocates and for what Catholic social teaching advocates. And yeah, that's what it basically means to me, or from my understanding, that's what it means.
Yeah. For me, and I brought this up when I had Franco on my show, is that Protestants are more Catholic on accident, or that some Protestants end up being more Catholic than they would like to admit on accident, and some Catholics end up being more Protestant than they would like to admit on accident.
He
Basically,
isn't
like
he isn't wrong, yeah.
so no, I said that, so thank you for the
Oh yeah,
compliment.
you aren't wrong. You aren't wrong, yeah.
Yeah, but and so like I'm seeing this, and maybe it's because I only became a Protestant. I've only been a Protestant since like January, you
Oh,
know.
okay. What were you
Like
before that?
like I was an atheist basically.
Oh, okay. I mean,
but
that's
I
that's
don't
still
mean
better than
I
atheism.
don't mean that as in like I hated religious people. I mean that as in like I was a literal non-theist.
Like
Like
you just didn't.
theology, it wasn't part of me as a person.
Right. That makes
feel
sense.
I didn't feel any like need for it or whatever. And I didn't really
Right.
understand
Right.
it. But despite reading the Bible cover to cover, which
Yeah.
was stupid. But
I mean,
yeah,
why
but
would
the
you say?
point
Why would you say it's stupid?
I would say it's stupid because the Bible is the most like self-referencing book or whatever, and that or like someone I heard someone else say that at some point, but I've kind of noticed it now that I've been reading it more, and I've sort of realized that a lot of my presuppositions on like on certain moralities that I just led off to the wind as instinct is
Right.
actually informed culturally by American Protestantism, which
Right.
is effectively Catholicism without the church,
I mean,
basically.
yeah, you aren't wrong about that. I mean, you take a look at, many of like what the Anglicans tend to believe. I mean, you take a look at what Anglicans and Lutherans believe. I mean, they have certain ideas that we Catholics also have. I mean, they also believe in the idea of intercession. They also believe in they also believe that Mary, this because I have friends who are Baptists, and most of the time they say that they think that intercession isn't really like a thing. They don't really believe that much in intercession, but I mean there are Lutherans, I mean, intercession does exist for them, and same thing for Anglicans. Um, so yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Now, when it comes to Baptists, I mean, I could also see it in the way of like, sometimes I have conversations with my Protestant friends, and oftentimes we, debate on the idea of what is required to get saved. And according to the Catholic belief, both works and faith are needed, meaning grace. They think that grace is needed to be saved.
Mm.
Now, my friends who are Baptists, they say, well, it's just faith that is needed to be saved. And, I often respond to that, well, if faith is the only thing needed, well, wouldn't that mean that anybody who, just believes in Christ but commits sin, do they go to heaven? And they usually respond with, well, they say that faith and they say that in order to truly be faithful, in order to have faith, you need to have work, something around that line. But basically, they say that if you have faith, you are basically going to commit works by that, which honestly, I think is pretty much the same thing. I mean, I don't
Yeah,
really see it that much of a difference between that and Catholicism. I mean, I guess the difference is that um,
it's the
Baptist,
diff. There is a difference, and it's a difference between
yeah,
should and must, which
exactly, yeah,
basically means the same thing anyway. If you want to get like really granular about it, it's technically different.
exactly, yeah.
Mm.
But I mean, I would say that that's somewhat, not completely, but somewhat of an example of, Protestants accidentally being Catholic. Now, when it comes to Catholics being Protestants, I mean, I don't really think that much I don't really know much of an example, but I do know people who, call themselves Catholics, but like often watch more like evangelical stuff, and get more of their advice from evangelicals and Baptists. So I mean, I could say that maybe that is an example, but I wouldn't really say that that's as much of an example as to the of Protestants being Catholic accidentally. So
I would just kind of say that like the people who go to church just to say that they go to church, you know.
that's
Like for
true.
me, I don't have a church in my local area. I live in California, so
Yeah.
you know, like you know how it is,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. My brother went to LA actually last year for this service trip that my school was doing, and he said that it's a pretty big mess down there. So
Mm.
yeah,
That's
unfortunately.
actually what brought on my thing that actually led me to taking Christianity more seriously was I looked at LA. I was like, well, God has abandoned this place. Like that was literally my first thought was God has abandoned LA. It's the first
Yeah,
thing that came to my mind. But so I guess like even like with all of this, like why are I don't mean like the religious wars. We all understand that. I mean like
yeah,
specifically on social media because we don't really do religious wars anymore,
Of
thankfully.
course, it's not like the
So,
Shiites and the Sunnis like in the Middle East.
God, yes, you know,
Yeah,
but like we can finally like bridge this divide because like full disclosure when it comes to religion, like even with like Islam and Judaism, I'm of the opinion of no more brother wars,
oh, I
as in
no, I
like
agree with you.
we as in
Yeah,
like we all believe in the same God, so like who gives a shit, right?
exactly.
But
I mean,
specifically with Catholics and Protestants, why are they at odds with each other? Because it's basically like it's the same morals and ethical system for the most part,
exactly.
you
Yeah.
know?
Well, I think the reason why they're at odds to each other, I think it's mainly because both are trying to be the most accurate when it comes to interpreting what Christ meant with,
Mm,
being a true Christian. I mean, you take a look at, I mean, obviously the Catholic Church is more united when it comes to that because there's the hierarchy, there's the catechism, there's Catholic social teaching. But I mean, you also take a look, and while in Protestantism, and I'll get back to my previous point in a moment, but you take a look at the Protestant, denomination, and there's the Anglicans who, believe in intercession, and the Lutherans who also believe in intercession, and
mm.
who in a way don't completely discard, traditions that the apostles had. But then there's, the Baptists who, the Baptists who don't believe in intercession, who don't really have the same traditions. Like, for example, you take a look at a Lutheran or Baptist church. I mean, no, a Lutheran and Anglican church. Many of they still have a lot of the sacraments that the Catholic Church has. The Baptist Church, they don't really have those sacraments. The only like sacrament they have is baptism, which
Mm.
and often that is often done later in the life of the Baptist, not really at childbirth, which is basically usually done in Catholicism, sometimes also in Orthodoxy. So I
Mm.
mean, there's and not only that, you take a look at Calvinists. I could be wrong about this, but Calvinists, they believe that, double predestination. They believe in double predestination when it comes to the.
Double predestination?
I think so. I mean, that's what I've basically been told. I could be
What,
wrong about
what
that.
what does that mean? I've never heard of that before.
So I mean,
Double predestination.
I think what it means is that they think that, according to what I've been told, I think double predestination is basically where they think uh that God has already chosen whether you've been saved or not, basically. Um, Meaning that, like, no matter what you do, you might go to heaven or hell. But God has basically they think that God has already chosen that. But I mean, I could be wrong about that because again, I mean, there's a lot of Protestants who don't agree with that idea, who basically believe that, you know, it's faith that is needed. But I mean, there's also the idea of, from what I've been told, that Calvinists believe that God has already chosen whether you're saved or not. So yeah. But yeah, that's basically what it is. So yeah.
Mm.
Now, I could be wrong about that, but I mean, if that's true, I mean, that also shows more of a divide within Protestantism. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you take a look at
When I say Protestantism, I sort of mean like when I say Catholicism and Protestantism, I mean like the general consensus among the desperate
okay.
Protestant groups, like just sort of like a generalized view of American
Right.
Christianity, basically, specifically, and the Roman Catholic Church,
Yeah.
basically. Like I'm just lumping everything in as
Yeah.
much together as I possibly can, because
Yeah.
otherwise we'd be going over the denominations for like 40 minutes and we still
Yeah.
wouldn't be done, you
Oh no,
know?
yeah, I know. No, but like my point here is that like I think
Mm.
that, because of all these differences, the reason why there's a lot of, talking over is because again, like they're trying to, interpret um, the word of the Lord and the gospel as much
Mm.
as possible. Now, not only that, I mean, not well, yeah, not only that. Part of that, I think, also means the Catholic Church, they have their own hierarchy. You don't really see that much in Protestantism. You don't really see that much of a hierarchy when it comes to having a pope or anything like that. Like when it comes to the mainline Protestant churches, all you see is like they might have a I don't know if they have a priest, but they do have someone similar to a
Mm.
priest. But I think that part of that is because of that, because um, Protestants, they basically don't really believe in that hierarchy necessarily that the Catholic Church has. So, and I think the reason why is because they think that
It's just American, the way Americans view things.
exactly that's true
The
as
more
well.
decentralized something is, the better the thing is, you know.
Yeah, well, I mean, to be fair, I mean, I wouldn't really say that Catholics completely reject that either, because Catholics believe in the idea of subsidiarity, which is one of the values of Catholic social teaching. However, they think that like they don't think that it should be applied to literally everything, if you get what I
Mm,
mean. But
yeah.
yeah, that's one of the values of basically subsidiarity is basically where they think that if there are matters that can be handled by lower levels of society, then it could be handled by them. Like, for example, like a good example of this would be like if this could apply to business, but it could also apply to government. If in government, a good example would be like the federalist system that we have in our country right now.
Mm,
In terms of economics, I mean, it could be like have small businesses handle the economy if they can do it more than like big businesses, pretty much. That's pretty
yeah.
much what the value is of subsidiarity, but doesn't mean decentralize literally everything, but that is basically a value that
That's
that
kind of what I'm like, because I'm thinking that that and I'm just kind of like speaking on behalf of all Protestants because, you know, it's what you're supposed to do, of course, with these kinds of things,
yeah,
you know, at least nuance as possible. But I've kind of taken the opinion, or I've noticed that I tend to just use Protestantism as like a philosophy.
yeah,
Like faith alone is like a philosophy.
yeah,
You know, I've joked with Franco kind of off camera that that, and I'm saying this as a Protestant, that Protestantism is basically the same as is basically just honest atheism, basically. Or like, I wouldn't say that if I was French,
yeah,
you know, but I mean like from an American perspective, Protestantism, and broadly speaking, the Christian ethic is what informs sort of the interpersonal stuff and society in the United States. It's what
yeah.
connects the biggest cities in the United States from the smallest of rural towns. So I'm just kind of thinking, like, should probably get the Christian ethic right. And I am nowhere near qualified enough for that. So as a Catholic, what is the Christian ethic?
So from the Catholic perspective, I mean, I think that a Christian ethics, what is the Christian ethic? I think it basically means again, valuing the ideas of Catholic social teaching of
Hmm.
those the values described in the Bible, which is, the Ten Commandments, pretty much submitting to Christ, pretty much. I mean, that's what I think that Christian ethics is. It's about loving your neighbor, it's about caring for the poor, caring. Now, obviously, it doesn't mean, that being the only thing, because there's also a lot of things. But basically, caring for the poor, caring for the environment, caring for your community, pretty much,
Hmm.
loving your neighbor, pretty much. That is what basically Christian ethics is about. But loving your neighbor doesn't just mean, letting your neighbor do whatever you want, like many progressive Christians among Catholicism and Protestantism would want you to believe. It also means not allowing your brother to be led astray. It
Yeah.
means
When
having your
you're
brother submit.
if a member of your family was shooting themselves up with 4 heroin needles a day, if you love them, if you love them as you love yourself, you would take the heroin needles away from them and throw them
Exactly.
away. Yeah.
Exactly. If you that is exactly what loving your neighbor is about. And I think that that is one of the most important. I think that is what Christian ethics is based on. Now, again, this doesn't mean like, like a lot of people like to say that, oh, like a lot of people, specifically atheists, like to compare Christ to a hippie. They like to say that, oh, Christ was just a hippie, that he preached love. But I mean, we could get into like a whole conversation. I could literally talk about how that's not true, because both movements,
You say
both
that as
Christ,
if as if curing Parkinson's and like the weird SIDS stuff disease that they
exactly,
had back then wouldn't be a violent process. You know,
exactly.
the
But
removal of those tumors wouldn't be violent at all. You know.
exactly. But I mean, people like to say that, but I mean, at the same time, though, like Christ wasn't doing this for himself, because
Hmm.
a lot of the values of like hippie stuff, most of them value about like about the self, about yourself, at least from what I've seen. Christ didn't do that for himself. He did it for those around him. He wanted people to love themselves. And again, that didn't mean, let your brother do what you want. Like he said, it meant, loving your neighbor, and that meant, loving your neighbor as you love yourself and preventing your neighbor from doing anything stupid or anything bad to
Hmm.
themselves. So yeah, that's what I basically think Christian ethics is based on primarily. So yeah, again, I could probably, like, if it was somebody like Franco, he could probably, go more in depth into it. But, that's basically what I believe. That's basically the basics, pretty much, of what I understand in terms of Christian ethics. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, do you want to get into the fun part, or do you have anything else to say?
Let me see. So I think we could get into the fun part. I think
Yeah.
we get into the
All
fun part.
right. Let's get into the fun part. Men around my age. This is
Yeah,
going to be very old man shouting at the sky,
yeah,
and if you don't like it, keep watching anyway.
yeah. So
So,
true.
so basically, I think. Well, I've just kind of noticed this, and I talked about this with Franco. I remember seeing Franco's video about like yoga pants, and thinking it was like the biggest like bullshit or whatever. I
Yeah,
was like, I appreciated him. Like we were already friends for months at that point, but I was
yeah,
just kind of like, it's a bit far. And then I saw yoga pants in person.
yeah,
Hell no, hell
yeah.
no. That's not close. And I fully
Exactly.
agree with Franco now. But then I just kind of started thinking that happened, and then like there's all these videos coming out of like these women like
Oh yeah,
basically being naked in public, and then cherry on top they're like, are you staring at me? It's like,
yeah.
yes, you're naked in
It's
public, you're
it's
making a
dumb.
scene, you
Exactly. I
know
mean, I
and then
think
they
it's,
like
sorry, you can go.
accuse
My bad.
people of like, and then they accuse people of rape, and
Exactly.
like undressing, you're addressing me with your eyes, you're already undressed, ma'am, please put some clothes on, is a public place. And I'm just like, do we have permission as like, because I'm going to the gym or whatever, and if I
Yeah,
see like some woman making a scene, I'm gonna have to do some thought patrol,
yeah,
are you staring at me?
yeah.
No, you're ugly. I think we need to like do something like that. Like, why would I stare at you? You're ugly.
Exactly. Yeah,
That's why you're at the gym with me. You're ugly too. We will
exactly.
never be happy with our physique. We will always be ugly. I think we need to start like policing some gym thoughts. What do you
Exactly.
think?
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, I mean, I think that these people who, go, like, these women who go to the gym, practically have, and like, here's the thing, I have nothing against women wearing tight clothes in the gym, like,
Hmm.
not like to the point where like it's immodest, but I think it's okay because, again, like, if you want to see progress, I mean, it's better to, have those tight clothing rather than, be skinless. You don't,
Yeah.
like, that's why I think it's okay, because it's a good way of seeing progress without being in too completely entirely immodest. But
Hmm.
when it comes to the point where, like, because I've seen the videos you're talking about, like, where they go to the gym and, start recording, and then a man not even looks at them, just like, it's like this, like, they're just going like this, and then, like, like they just go like that, like they're only, like, they just look at them for let's pretend like I'm a man, like, at the gym, like they're just going like this, and like they'd be like that, right? And like they're like, why are you staring at me? And I'm like, they're not staring at you. They're probably looking at something else. And
You're
also,
in
not
my,
only that,
it's not my fault. You happen to be in my peripheral while you were practically naked.
exactly, yeah.
It gets,
And not only that, like, I've heard from people who go to the gym that they sometimes, something that they do when they go to the gym is that they like to look at other people regardless of gender. Um, and most of the time, the reason why is because they want to see if, they could, like, I guess, improve something about themselves. Because,
hmm,
you go to the gym, there's other people there. There might be people doing the exercise a lot better than you are. So
yeah.
because of that, you might, look around at other people regardless of gender. Um, and because of that, they like to look around. So I mean, I wouldn't really say, so this whole thing that, oh, men are looking at these women because they are, because of, they're there. I think it's dumb. It's stupid. And honestly, like, if it wasn't for me, I think that people who, record videos of that, they should probably not be allowed to go to the gym ever again. Because, like, I just think that, if they're gonna record people who aren't even doing anything wrong and then, like, falsely accusing them of stuff, like they might as well just work out at their house, like at that point. So
Hmm.
yeah. Now obviously we can't entirely do that because, I don't know, like it would kind of, it's up to the gym to decide that. But I mean, if it wasn't for all of this stuff, I would honestly just have them only stay in their house, only work out at their house, so that they aren't looked at. So yeah.
Yeah, like if you no, you're exactly. If they were genuinely concerned about that, about not wanting to be observed, they wouldn't bring their ring lights and their phones and all that stuff. Thankfully, the gym that I go to, like no one's like filming themselves.
Yeah.
Like no, like I understand like filming yourself working out like for your own kind of thing or whatever, but you
Yeah.
can tell when someone has the intent to post when they have something like this.
Exactly.
You know, it's so
Yeah, if you
see,
have something like that in the gym, you're obviously gonna look like it's a big it's a
I
big
brought my
part
entire studio with
of
me. Please don't look at it.
exactly. I mean, it's not it's like here's the thing. Like one thing is putting like laying your like phone like on like a piece of equipment, they're probably not gonna notice that. But when you have like you bring a whole tripod with the ring, people are gonna notice.
If I
It's not
don't
like
look at it and I
exactly
trip and break my neck, you're going to sue me for breaking your camera equipment, you know?
exactly. See, that's the problem with all of these people as well. Like they're very self-centered. Many of these people
Hmm.
who record, these men who just go to the gym, many of these women who go and record these men, they're very self-centered. They only think about themselves, and because of that, I think that these people, are just not good. Like again, like I said, like if they were really like, concerned, like they should honestly just stay home or go to a gym where it's only for females. So
Wear
yeah.
an oversized hoodie and a skirt or something to cover your butt crack. Like it's, ugh, you know.
Yeah,
But
it's
on that note, we've attacked thoughts, and now we need to attack soy boys
of
because
course.
I'm not entirely sure which one it is. Is it our culture that's very emasculating, or is it our food?
I honestly think that
It
it's both, honestly.
that's too nuanced for me. I'm retarded, but you know,
But I think that it's both. And the reason
yeah,
why is because you take a look at what's in our food, like there's a lot of metals, and not just a lot of metals, a lot of things, a lot of ingredients like vegetable oil,
microplastics and all that stuff. Yeah,
microplastics, vegetable oils, soy, um, a lot of these metals, all of these things contribute to the contribute to testosterone going down, and because of that, um, I think that that's the reason why masculinity has declined. One of the reasons why it has declined, and the reason why there's a lot of those things in our food is because many of those things um, allow food to be, kept like preserved longer.
mm,
And I think that because of that, I don't really think it's really just something about culture. I think it also has something to do with greed in a way, because
yeah.
many of these multinationals which sell all of these things, they're only looking for the money. They're not looking after the care of the person who buys it. So because of that, they're going to sneak all of these ingredients, which preserves the food for longer. And that's what has contributed to the declining of our society. Now, I don't think it's just that. I think the culture has also contributed because, when we have a culture that promotes laziness, but not just laziness, freedom. Now, obviously, freedom is good, but when you promote absolute freedom, like freedom to be lazy, freedom to do whatever you want, freedom to consume anything you want, that in a way contributes to the emasculation of our culture. And not only that, it also, this promotion of the idea that, men and women are completely equal, which don't get me wrong, yes, men and women are equal in terms of value, but
But
this
they're not the
idea,
same.
exactly, they're not the
Yeah.
same. But this idea that women and men are the same like people, I think it has also caused men to, not really care about the roles that they naturally have. Like people like to say, oh, these roles have been given by society. It's a social construct. Oh, really? Is it a social construct? then why is it that many primitive societies today, it's always the men, going out caring for like, the community and the women staying at home in the community. Like you take a look at many of these tribes,
It's
and
because
I
biology existed long before society, and no one wants to talk about that.
exactly. I mean, you take a look at I watched this video by Carson Wolf. It was basically
Hmm.
on gender roles, I think it was. And he basically talked about how like, you take a look at many of these primitive societies in Africa and in these countries, I mean, they pretty much have the same gender roles that we have today. So
Hmm.
like because of that, like this whole thing that, oh, it's just societal construct. No, and maybe it could be a societal construct, but why is it? It's because it naturally is one that arises naturally. So yeah, now a lot of these feminists, they like to cite, from societies that were like maternal and stuff like that.
Yes, like the Tahomey warriors, which were
Exactly.
uh that's an actual cited example.
But I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if like you take a look at the majority of societies, like there's a reason why there's very few exceptions. Like just the number alone just shows you that it's natural. So yeah, that's the reason why I wouldn't say that it's like even though there's exceptions, like the number of exceptions don't really outnumber the number of actual societies that had like name one society like you take like you like the amount of societies that were like maternal or that were matriarchies like they're accountable. The amount of societies that were paternalistic or
Mhm.
patriarchal, it's countless. Like it's
Yeah.
very hard to count. It's a very little huge number. So because of that, I think to say that like, hey, that they're just social construct, I just don't think that's good because again, there's a reason why the majority of societies are paternal and in some cases patriarchal. Now I'm not endorsing patriarchy entirely, although I do think that we should have a society, a paternalistic society in which
Patriarchy put a man on the moon and built the pyramids. So I mean, it's like, you know,
I mean, you see, I don't know because here's the thing. I mean, I remember I learned this in history class back last year. Apparently there's a difference between paternalism and patriarchy. And basically paternalism is that like I guess that it recognizes that women have a duty to be in the home and it recognizes women as equally valuable,
mm,
but that but that they should ultimately submit to men. And when it comes to a patriarchal society, it's just men, or not like just men only, like like
yeah.
that men get their own way thing, but like it's like men are like in a way superior. I guess that's what I've been taught, but I mean, I could be wrong. But yeah, I mean, I am a supporter of paternalism when it comes to, I do think that, women should submit to their husbands as long as they are with Christ. But yeah, that's basically what I believe. But yeah, I could be wrong, but yeah.
I think as long as I have to go out into the field, like if there's ever a lion in front of our house, I have to be the one to kill it or make sure it doesn't kill the kids.
Exactly. I mean, that's how it
You know,
technically has been for most of human history,
yeah.
because again, that's how it naturally has been. Again, take a
Mm,
look at the primitive societies that we have today. They are still going off of those values. So yeah.
yeah.
Now, the only thing that I mean, I'm not saying that it's that primitive societies are bad, but like I feel like feminists will use this argument to say, well, then it's primitive to have the man submit to I mean to have the man at the top and the woman submit. They'll try to say that, but I mean, I don't think that everything, I'm a traditionalist. I don't think that everything traditional is bad. Like
Mm,
it's primitive. Well, I don't care. I mean, not everything traditional is bad. Like again, like when Roe v. Wade got overturned, many of these feminists were going like, "We're taking a step backwards. We're taking a step backwards," and
it's
I'm
just like
like,
the Handmaid's Tale.
"Yeah," and I'm like, I honestly don't care for taking a step backwards. Sometimes we have to take a step backwards because sometimes we are wrong. And honestly, I would even say that we've been wrong about a lot of things lately in this society. So we should probably take a lot more steps back.
Yeah.
So
And I
yeah.
guess on that note, for these next 15, 20 minutes or so, what is the issue that is most important to you?
So, I mean, at the moment, I mean, I would probably say the issue of abortion. I mean, before this, the reason why I wanted to push it until 6 was because I was actually at a pro-life convention
Oh, okay.
earlier today. or I met some pretty good people. I did some networking. I would say that that is probably the most important issue because I just don't really trust any politician, whether Republican or Democrat, who or even independent,
Hmm.
who would allow abortion to be legal. If you can't even defend human life at the most vulnerable point, then how can I trust you to defend human life when it's already born? I mean, you take a look
Hmm.
at many of these pro-choicers. I mean, in my last post, the last post I posted, or not, or the one before my last post, I was basically reacting to this video of this 911 call that was being done by an abortion clinic because some woman, was her life was in danger because the abortion went wrong. And,
Oh,
the plan
geez.
and the Planned Parenthood
Uh,
clinic, the clinic was like, oh, it's not much of a big deal. Some woman just needs to go to the hospital. And because of that neglect, because of that idea that because of that Holtic view of abortion, because you take a look at the way they view abortion, it's
hmm.
it's it's pretty much like a sacrament for the progressives. Um, but anyway, because of that view, they wanted to, try to hide the damage as much as possible.
Hmm.
And because of that, I just think that the reason why that's been the case is because, again, if these people cannot defend the most vulnerable human life at the moment of conception, then what will happen to defend human life already when it's already born? So that's the
Yeah.
reason why I would say now it's not my only issue. I would also say that I would say that I think that a lot of social conservative stuff are probably my most important issues because I think that again that's what we're lacking in society. I mean, the
Yeah.
Overton window in America. I mean, in terms of economics, I mean, I would say it's probably a bit shifted towards the right, but when it comes to social policy, it's shifted very to the left. And this could be seen with this whole idea of transgenderism, of homosexuality, of
Hmm.
um, abortion, of all of these things which are bad. So
Yeah.
I think that we need to, start shifting the Overton window back to the right. I mean, you take a look at a lot of societies today. I mean, I went to Costa Rica back in February, back
Hmm.
over February vacation. And over there, you go to a store where they sell cigarettes. On the cigarettes, there are labels that, literally say that smoking could cause an abortion because, of secondhand smoking and even
It
smoking
says the
itself.
word abortion.
Yeah, it doesn't say
Wow.
it doesn't kill an unborn fetus. It says it could cause an abortion. And that right there shows you that over there, like the Overton window is shifted a lot more to the right
Yeah.
because they recognize that abortion is murder. You're not going to see that anywhere in America.
Hmm.
You're only going to see that probably in a store that is explicitly pro-life. You're not going to see that anywhere, like in a normal tourist store or even in a normal store. You're just going to see
Hmm.
that in a normal pro life. And I think that we got to start shifting back to the right. And here's the thing with Costa Rica. I went there and
Hmm.
I was really fascinated with the society over there because despite the fact that they are poor, they are a lot happier. And the reason why they're a lot happier is because they're more religious than us. And because they have this religion, this idea of religion within them, um, they aren't really reliant that much on mass consumption like we are here in America. And because
Yeah.
they don't really have that thing of mass consumption over there, they're a lot more happy. And I think the reason why they don't have that idea of mass consumption is because of the Christian ethics that they've primarily been built on. So, yeah,
So what do
that
you think about this? That like the American left views the word freedom as something that can only be achieved once you have taken something, or once you have sufficiently taken from others. Where, or I guess more broadly speaking, the West views freedom that way.
I mean, I
And
think
in like
sorry,
countries where Eastern Orthodoxy and Catholicism are more prevalent, you'll find that they tend to view freedom as the freedom to do what you should do, the freedom to be able to do the things that you should do,
exactly.
you know?
I mean, yeah, I think that the way the West has unfortunately started to view because the West hasn't always been this way. I mean, the West
No.
started to be like this after like the 1960s and forward, they've been this way.
Mm.
But I mean, the way the left, I mean, not the left, the West is starting to, and the left is starting to view freedom as, in order to, be successful, you have to take, I think it's a false freedom because if you can't even achieve um anything without being yourself, then that isn't freedom. That's just theft in a way. That's and often, whether it is theft in that, you redistribute wealth, or theft, or like, I mean, it's theft that way. But also, if you take from someone else in that, like, in any other way, whether it's spiritual, I mean, I'd also say that that in a way is also kind of, I mean, theft as well. Now, I don't think that the left just views freedom that way. That is one way they view freedom. But I also think they view freedom as doing anything you please, even if it's immoral, even if it's bad. And I think that that right there is also a false freedom, because if you're doing immoral things, and not just doing immoral things, start to take rely on these immoral things, then in a way you're not free. You're enslaved to these immoral things. Like, for example, you take a look at drugs, for example. When you start to get addicted to drugs, you're not really free. You're addicted to these drugs. When you start become an alcoholic, you're not free. You are enslaved to alcohol. And it's the same thing. It's not just alcohol or drugs. It could even be said about money. I mean, when you start to only care about money, when you only want money, when you only pursue that money, that in a way is also a false freedom, because you're enslaved to that idea, to that notion of only getting money and only getting money. And I'm not saying that money is bad. I'm not saying it's the root of all evils, because money is like water. It's necessary,
Yeah.
but it's not your whole entire life. Like, to worship money would be like to worship, like to like put money first would be like to worship water first. It would be like worshiping
How is
water.
it possible to even worship money? I don't.
Like like I guess I would say, like, just making that your number one priority, putting it over your family, putting over your community, focusing
Oh,
on
I
yourself.
see. Okay, yeah, makes sense.
So yeah, I would say that that's how it is. Like, not really worshiping it, but well, yes, worshiping it, but like I wouldn't really say it's comparable to like Christianity or something like that. But in a way, you are putting it like it is technically a religion. But yeah, which honestly I think is the reason why our society has started to trend a lot more progressive. I mean,
Hmm.
while I was at the convention today, at the pro-life convention, people like Joe Biden and Tim Ryan, they used to vote in favor of pro-life legislation.
Hmm.
And the only reason why they stopped was because in order to win, they needed money. They need money. And the people who were willing to give them that money was the abortion lobby, was the abortion industrial complex. So instead, in order to win, they became pro-choice because that would give them money. And yeah, so they basically put money over innocent human lives. And I think that's another example of, greed, and of, other terrible things that are promoted by as freedom by our society. And I think that, again, that's not true freedom, because again, you are in a way have a mentality of the only way you can succeed is with money, not with God, not with Christ. And I think that that right there, to, have that mentality of only relying on money, I think that that right there is not true freedom. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, my most important issue is, and that's the joke. Anyway, would you do you have anything you want to shout out or anything like that before we turn this off?
Well, I'd like to like people. Are you asking for like people?
No, I mean like anything you're working on, your social media, things
Oh,
like
of course.
that.
So I mean, as of like as for the past month, me and my friend Alexander McRae, we're thinking about, or we're not thinking about, we're making an organization or a foundation, a nonprofit organization called the New Right Foundation. We're planning
Hmm.
on launching it soon. We're gonna post a video about what we represent in a few weeks, maybe even months. But yeah, but another organization that that I'm not really involved with, but my friends are, is called the Jackson Project. They're basically a bunch of conservative Democrats who want to bring back social conservatism to the party. And I think that that's I'd like to shout them out, because I feel like in order to win back the nation, I don't think we should just focus on becoming Republicans. I think we also got to change the minds and hearts of Democrats as well. When it comes to me, I don't care if you want to raise taxes or not. As long as you believe in Christ and have Christ as your basic morality, then I'm fine with you. So yeah, I like to shout them out as well.
Yeah. All right. Click his Instagram link down below in the description
Of course.
to follow him. Click the with Koji down below in the description if you want to build and scale your social media brand from 0 to 40K plus in followers and revenue. And click the affiliate link down below in the description because buy some crypto because the banks are going to shit,
Of
and I want to
course.
monetize that. So thanks so much.